Well, there's no question in my mind that's the case. And I see so many examples now of people getting caught up in the coolness, if there is such a word, of their technology, and they forget that there's got to be a purpose. And I suppose I could contradict myself by saying that entire industries have been created starting out with games. If you think about it, the whole personal computer industry really started with the game of Pong. You guys are all too young to remember Pong. But, but this was a totally mindless game. But on the other hand, it did teach people how to interact with a screen. And the next thing you know, we graduated to Pac-Man, and then the personal computer came. So there is something to be said for games as being the initiating stimulus, but there is just too much. I serve on an FCC advisory council, and people are so caught up in the idea of 6G and terahertz spectrum, none of which by itself has any human value at all. It'll be 10 years before we even have applications, and yet there are really serious problems that we should be addressing today with wireless, like the digital divide, healthcare, all of those kinds of things. So I didn't mean to pick on you about your feelings at the beginning, but we are overemphasizing technology for the sake of technology, and I'm opposed to that.
Well, and Marty, I think that was well said, and I would just kind of add, I think the conversation often starts with technology, and I've always looked at technology as a tool in the toolbox, but it's what you do with it. And I think some of the most exciting days in technology are when you're no longer talking about the technology itself. Instead, you're talking about what it's solving for, what it's being applied to, how it's benefiting us. And so while and I think about just any technologies over time, we may start, and I think you just mentioned, 6G, but even where we're at with 5G, any of these point technologies early on, it's, I think everybody, tends to go a bit crazy on just talking about the technology, but it's the practical application that really, and when it almost kind of fades away, because we look at the utility of it, the benefit of it, and not really looking under the hood anymore and thinking about what's the actual underlying technology. I think that is some of the most exciting time, is when we finally get to that point, because everybody always, as I said, likes to talk about the technology. I like to talk about the practical problems we're solving with it.
Great observation. Absolutely. When the technology disappears from the conversation, it's successful.
Mm-hmm. Yep.